Hi, my name is Jake, and I am a bookish drummer. So for today's Stephen King video, I'm bringing you guys yet another book review. And I said in my last Stephen King book review, which was It, which I gave 4 stars, I'm going to be talking about Stephen King books this year. I'm going to be reviewing Stephen King books that I tend to have like unpopular opinions with. Now, a lot of the time, my unpopular opinion is I don't give it 5 stars, or I don't like it, or I think it's overrated. But for today's video, I'm going to be talking about a book that I honestly think is one of Stephen King's best told stories, and that it's super underrated. And if you didn't guess by the title alone, I'm going to be talking about The Colorado Kid. So like I said, I definitely have an unpopular opinion with this book. Usually constant readers either hate this book, or they think it's like fine, or they think it's mediocre, or they just think it's forgettable. Most Stephen King fans don't love this book like I do, and it shows through the Goodreads ratings. I think this is Stephen King's like lowest rated book on Goodreads by far. Most of his books are around 4 stars, like some dip below to like 3.6, 3.7. I think this is like 3.3, which is pretty low, and quite honestly, it's a bit ridiculous. But I do understand like the main criticism with this book, and I'll get into it with the review. But just up front, I do love this book. For me, it gets better every time I read it. And you know what? Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into the review. So if you guys don't know that much about The Colorado Kid, or you haven't read it before, or you're just not aware of its existence, I'll talk about its history a little bit before I dive into the book itself and why I love it so much. So The Colorado Kid, by of course Stephen King, was actually written under the publisher Hard Case Crime. And basically the owner, or like the creator of Hard Case Crime, wrote to Stephen King basically asking for a blurb, because Stephen King blurbs do boost book sales. And basically he said, you know what, I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to write you a book. And wouldn't you know it, he did. And so the Colorado Kid was born. So what is this story about exactly? It's about a woman named Stephanie, and she's sitting down with these 2 older gentlemen who actually run like this local newspaper. And she basically asks the 2 guys there, like, what is there like a local mystery that's just like never been solved? Like, she's basically wanting to know about some unsolved cases, like some hard case crime stuff. And basically they go into in very big detail about the case of the Colorado Kid. And the whole story is basically just them sitting down, and they are describing the details of the case, and she's asking questions, and they're hoping that she asks the right question, because hopefully, you know, she's like a student, like trying to get her journalistic degree or whatever. So they're hoping that she asks the right questions, and that she kind of goes down the same path that they're going down. And basically the whole thing is like they've never really told anyone about all of the details of the crime and how it's unsolved. And basically you're just getting all of that in this little, you know, less than 200-page novella or novel. Yeah, and it's really enthralling. And like I said, it is an unsolved crime, and just the further on you get into the story, the kind of the weirder the details get. Basically a man is found on a beach, and he's unidentified, and they really have no idea how he could have gotten there. And then once they do realize who it is, they're trying to figure out, like, it just seems like almost impossible the way he could have ended up on this beach dead. And there's just a lot of clues, and there's a lot of just interesting facts about him, and like what was on him when they found him. This book just has so much intrigue. And of course it's Stephen King basically it's Stephen King telling you a story. Like the main dialogue is basically these older guys telling Stephanie about the case and like all the findings that they've had throughout the years. But it's basically just Stephen King telling you a story, and it's really good. And you guys know how much I love Stephen King novellas, and this is just one of the better ones. I know it is a novel technically, but it's novella length, and there's even novellas that are longer than this one, so it's a novella. It's a very simple story with great dialogue and great characters and a lot of intrigue into the mystery of the Colorado Kid and just why, like it's been unsolved for so many years. And it's fantastic every time I read it. It's one of those unique story experiences for me that just get better and better every time I read it. I think the first time I read it, I didn't really appreciate it as much, but every time I've reread it since then, I've just loved it even more. So why do people really not like this novella as much as I do? Why do people just even hate it or just think it's really mediocre? It's basically because King introduces this mystery of the Colorado Kid and how his death has been unsolved for years. And basically, by the end of the book, you don't really get any answers. There's no clear cut answers as to what happened to him. And people really hate that, but I loved it. I can definitely see how people can find that annoying. Like, you build up this mystery and then you don't even solve it. And that can be kind of deflating for people. But for me, I think it works really well in the themes that Stephen King is, introducing here. Because basically, you've got these two older guys and they've been just thinking about this case for years and they've never been able to find any answers. Like the police have never been able to find any answers. Just no one has really a clue as to why it happened, how it happened, and people are just left baffled, which in real life happens. But for a lot of people, they come to books for escapism and they don't like their stories to not wrap up nicely in a neat bow. Like not all the answers have to be answered, but like the main thing has to be answered. But in real life, you don't always get that. And for this one, it's one of the rare Stephen King books that's really grounded in reality. And I think it just makes sense for someone to get like that wrapped up in something that just it can't be answered. And that's why I love it. Honestly, I think it would have ruined the story if we did get an answer. Like at the very end, Stephanie kind of like puts her brain power together. It's like, oh, maybe this happened and this happened. And then she solves the case. I think that would have been kind of silly. And probably whatever the ending, like whatever like actually happened, like Stephen King probably knows like the real answer as to how this happened. Probably if he went and explained it, it wouldn't have gone down very well. And honestly, a lot of Stephen King endings that do that, like try to wrap it up and like just throw an ending that like, oh, you understand what's happening, but like maybe it should have been left a mystery. And that was one of my main criticisms of Under the Dome. Like the whole damn novel, you're wondering like, okay, where did this dome come from? Why is it here? And by the end of the novel, you get a clear understanding of why that is, but it sucks. And so a lot of the times, I feel like it's just better to leave it a mystery. Leave it up to the reader's interpretation. And I think Stephen King does that brilliantly here. And I know a lot of readers don't like it, but for me, I absolutely loved it. And I will continue to read this book over and over again because it's a very quick read. You can read this in a couple hours. And it's every time I read it, it gets better and better. So yeah, that's kind of my rambly thoughts on why I enjoy this novella, why people usually don't like it, but kind of like my reasoning for why I love it and why I think it's super underrated. First of all, I wish more people would go check it out. I think people are avoiding it because it has a really bad reputation, but I would love people to go check it out for themselves and make up their own minds. And I'm also just sad that, a lot of the people who do end up reading it don't like it. I know a few people do really enjoy it like I do, but most constant readers don't. I love it, and yeah, very unpopular opinion, But it is what it is. I'm known for my unpopular king opinions, and this is definitely one of them. All right, so that is my review for The Colorado Kid, an underrated masterpiece, in my opinion. But what do you guys think of The Colorado Kid? Do you agree with me and think that this book is amazing and you don't understand why people don't love it as much as you do? Or do you completely disagree with me and think that I'm an idiot and you think this is one of Stephen King's worst books? Or are you like most people who kind of think, it's okay, it's 3 stars, nothing special, but it's okay? Either way, I want to know your opinion down in the comments below. And of course, thank you guys so much for watching this video. And of course, if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the YouTube channel and the Book Astronomer Discord. I also have my Patreon page if you want to go support me there, and my Amazon wish list if you'd like to buy me a book. Thank you guys so much for watching and have a fantastic day.